The days of working in drab office environments are coming to an end, thankfully. In this segment of Frame, we will learn more about the role that design plays in creating office furniture and interior environments, as well as how design influences the way we feel and how we function in the workplace. Joining me is Vice President of Tallgrass Business Resources, Phil Wasta.
Hi, Yvette.
Hi, Phil. Thanks for being on Frame.
Thanks for coming to the showroom.
Let's talk design, let's talk furniture, let's talk technology.
I'm ready.
Okay. I know you've been around this industry your entire life.
Basically.
And it's a given that if you have an office, you have furniture. But I'm curious to find out from your expert viewpoint, how has the role of furniture changed in the workplace over the past few decades?
What we're finding is that from an ownership perspective, there's the difference between treating furniture as a necessary evil to conduct business versus an asset through which you can have a more productive workforce. So with that kind of as the backdrop, those who are looking for ways for a more productive workforce are going to also incorporate furniture into that planning. They're going to incorporate furniture into the design so that the productivity can increase. The Dilbertville era that is now, quite frankly, starting to come to an end, and I don't mean that unilaterally, but if you ask the younger generation coming in to the working world, the reaction you'll get from them is, I would not work there. They will not be hidden away, boxed up, and isolated from the rest of the workforce. It's just not an environment they wish to work in. With the advent of technology, which throughout the conversation I will keep dropping into technology because that's what's driving a lot of this. We've gone through the Dilbertville and the cubicle, and now we're getting back to open office again, but in a much different dynamic. Instead of everybody facing the same way, now we're talking interactive. One of the terms being used is benching.
Okay.
But where you provide a workforce the ability to interact with each other visually, physically, really within the environment, and don't try and separate them out because there's more that can be achieved through collaboration than without.
True. Let's move to personalized environments to make it more home-like with the intention of maybe people feeling more comfortable, happier.
Right.
Color trends, style trends.
Splashes of color, warmer tones, earthier tones, anything that has some connection to nature. In reality, I think all five senses, with the exception of taste. I haven't seen a flavored chair yet, but
it might be
who knows, it might be coming. They're definitely trying to appease, not appeal, but appease all of the senses. Use of pattern. If you watch any of the popular shows today, you're seeing more and more pattern embedded into the floor. Probably greater than 80% of the commercial flooring market is done in carpet tile, the
like
3
the
foot by
modular?
3 foot, right?
Okay.
Such as our floor here. And so what you see is what's called ashlar setting, or where they parquet the floor. But there's all sorts of different ways to lay that modular flooring so that you not only get a field of durability, the carpet itself, but you also get a visual factor worked in. And the carpet designers in that industry are coming out with such cool patterns to play with that it's no longer this monolithic field of 12-foot wide roll goods stuck to the floor. It's something more dynamic.
Is shag going to come back to the workplace?
Shag? Only at your house.
Only at my house. Well, I have hardwood floors, but I could get some shag rugs.
There's a shag carpet for you. Well, I thought we might take a look at this product to kind of tie a bow around some of the things we talked about earlier. In Steelcase's ongoing research and development, one of the things that is a huge drive for them is to embed technology into the furniture. And with, again, flat screen technology, the fact that technology is becoming smaller and smaller and smaller becomes very possible in ways that was never possible before. The Mediascape product, what makes it unique is, let's say we are in that corporate or education collaborative environment, and quite frankly, one of the markets that this is taking off the fastest is in colleges and universities, where a group of students walk up with their laptop, they plug in to what's called the puck. When you have 2 or more users and you're sharing information live, you don't have to forward it or download it or put it on a jump drive. You tap the puck, and the information that's on your screen goes up to the television Or you can do split screen where you're doing side-by-side information with again, 2 people. I've seen these with arrays as many as 4 monitors.
Wow.
As you can see, you can also do a camera so that this could be linked over the web where you're doing an interactive meeting, sharing information over the web, and also having that visual contact with each other at the meeting. Now, again, technology getting smaller in its second version. There's Mediascape Mobile, where rather than being tied to a table, it's a unit that you could roll around to multiple rooms, bringing the technology to the people instead of the people to the technology.
What other environments have been transformed because of design? And I'm thinking education and healthcare. 2
of the largest growth markets for our industry, driven by technology. One of the devices that we just saw come out is a mobile cart for doctors to take throughout the hospital, and their iPad would be mounted to the cart so that they didn't have to carry it. They could, it could be referred to constantly, but they would have use of both hands. Hospitals are converting over to paperless records and transferable patient information. That's all done now over the air, not even over the wire, because it's done Wi-Fi off their intranet. And so the doctor has that information following them everywhere they go.
How is the industry addressing the way that kids learn today, or facilitating some of their needs?
Again, same horse, technology. We want a technologically savvy workforce. We want kids coming through who are plug and play, if you will, coming into the workforce, being able to utilize technology. And so laptops are starting to be incorporated, in elementary school.
Even though I was a model student, they have put me in the corner. However, I am in this new really, really functional and well-designed educational personal unit. What do I call this, Phil?
It's just a chair.
It's just a chair? No, it's more than a chair.
Essentially, it's designed specifically for the high school and higher education market, colleges and universities. And what they did is they took the old fixed tablet chair, which many of us sat at in high school, and
in the 50s?
Yeah, and it goes all the way around. But they took that standard fixed tablet chair and did some things that bring it to today. Backpack holder at the bottom, so that the kids can bring their backpack with them. It isn't hanging over the back of their chair, impeding the person behind them, and they have access to it below. And then the tablet itself is much larger than what you found earlier, so that you have room for your computer and a little bit of writing space, but larger for laptops, and then rather than being fixed, can be swung around to the side to get in and out instead of torquing yourself in and out of those fixed tablets.
Oh, this is great.
And then it's not exactly rocket science, but one of the other things that they incorporated later, of course, was the cup holder. All the kids are carrying, water bottles or energy drinks or whatever it is that they have, and instead of setting it down on the floor, getting kicked over, it's something that can be incorporated in or tucked away and out of the way.
Oh, so, and adjusted around the space.
And then as you were showing, it swivels.
Yes, I like that. That's
this
my
model
favorite
does,
part.
and also it is on wheels.
Woohoo!
So one of the things that a lot of the professors are doing is, rather than everything being rowed in fixed environments, you can go from classroom style, everybody facing forward, receiving the message, to then breakout, because more and more classes are being taught in a manner where the kids break up into groups.
Right.
So they can literally just roll their chairs over into groups as opposed to dragging the fixed arms across.
Yeah, I remember that.
Now, I have heard the concern of chair races out in the hallway, and I think you might be a problem with that.
Oh, not me.
Not you.
No.
Oh, that's right, because you were a model.
I'm a model student to
That's
this
right.
day.
You would say go.
I would say go, and I would be on the lookout to make sure no one got caught.
Exactly.
But I wouldn't participate. No.
Hey.
No.
Yvette.
Hey, you know what, Phil? I just got a Facebook update. I have to look at that. I'll be right with you, okay? Just one second. What are you doing?
I'm writing you a note that says I have to leave.
You can't write on this. It's like writing on the walls at home.
Oh, I can write on this.
What? No.
It's a collaborative table from Steelcase called Campfire. and you can write dry erase, or you can take the glass off and write notes and then take the notes back to your desk.
This is one of the coolest things I've ever seen.
I think you need one for your living room.
I do. Okay, I want to write a note too, please. If you have to leave, then what? I have to tweet.
You have to tweet?
I have to do my Facebook update and then tweet, because it does have this.
It's got Tweety birds.
Oh, very nice. All right, here's my note. Phil rocks.
Thanks for coming today.
Thank you for having me. Thanks for sharing your expertise on design and how the way we work is changing and how we feel about work is changing, hopefully, too.
There's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on. I don't know if I can keep up, but right now I'm going to get back to this.
Okay.
Thanks so much, Phil.
Thanks
for tuning into this segment of Frame. Just as in apparel fashion that follows its own cycle of trends, colors, and styles, so does furniture fashion. There is one design period in particular that seems to continue to increase in desirability and prevalence. In this segment of Frame, we'll discuss mid-century mod furniture fashion with Dave Owens, owner of First Class Finds. Dave, thanks for being on Frame.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We're sitting here, we have our fabulous mid-century mod setup. So before we get into detail, because you are the expert on it, give us an idea of what it is exactly. What is mid-century modern furniture?
Well, to me, I think mid-century modern would definitely be between the time periods of 1940s through the 1970s. Modern furniture dates back to the 1800s, but
Really?
specifically mid-century modern is kind of its own genre, and that's kind of give or take. It could be late 30s, early 40s, and kind of even going into the late 70s.
I love the 70s, as you know, and I'm a big collector and fan of it. So what are the design elements in mid-century mod furniture?
Easily identified, it's usually clean lines, you know, very simple form, futuristic.
I read also it's organic in nature, tying back to Frank Lloyd Wright and how it should be a natural part of an environment. Is that an accurate assessment too?
I think that's very true.
And we have a table of a very significant designers, part of the mid-century mod movement, if you will, in decorative arts. And why don't you give us an overview about this table, please?
Well, the designer is Warren Plattner, and he was a designer for Knoll. And he had a line of this furniture, the wire table, and there was a dining table.
Yes.
And which would have been much larger, and it had wire chairs, much like this, all the way around it. And it's a desirable line.
It's a highly coveted. I have friends actually who have that set, and it's absolutely beautiful. Who are some of the other prominent designers from the mid-century mod period?
Well, I think probably at the forefront of most mid-century design conversations, you'd probably talk about Charles and Ray Eames.
Oh, yes.
They were a husband and wife design team. Charles was an architect, and Ray, his wife, was an artist. And together, they collaborated, and their vision was to be able to produce large amounts of furniture that was also affordable. No longer was it only affordable for a certain class of people to own. So.
And very functional as well.
Very functional.
Another highly coveted line. If you can find an Eames piece, you're doing well, in great condition. And if you have them, keep them.
Yes, really,
unless you want to get your hands on it.
Yeah, you can always bring it down.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I interrupted you. What were you going to say?
Oh, I just think, the part of their mission and the reason why they were at the forefront is because they were doing something a little different, not something everyone was doing. Their furniture, their mission was to hold a high standard for quality and also design.
Which still rings true to today. Do you have any idea why that period seems to be so popular right now?
Well, I think there's a few different reasons for that. As you mentioned, the quality of construction, I think, is something that's desirable to people who maybe aren't so much of a mid-century collector as they are somebody who wants quality furniture. The simplicity of the form, again, as you mentioned, really lends itself to a lot of different design schemes.
Yes.
I mean, you could put modern furniture in a contemporary home and make it work really well. I have customers who have purchased older homes, and they're still able to work in a few key pieces and still make it look right.
In a more traditional environment.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that's more of a trend now, is being able to do different things and not having to stick to just one type of furniture. If you can make it work and it looks good and you feel good in your home, then it works.
And that's the key, because that nesting, cocooning trend is also very high, which may be that, as well as individuality. Every piece is so unique that you don't see it coming and going as you do in so many things, like I likened it to apparel fashion and other furniture, modern furniture today. What exactly are the identifiers on pieces?
There's a lot of websites now that are catalogs of all the designers' furniture. Modernism book is a great identification guide to be able to give you kind of an overview of what the designers were doing, and a wide variety of different designers and companies.
Did they stamp their furniture?
Sometimes you will see it branded into the furniture.
Oh, okay.
Haywood Wakefield, certain Danish companies actually stamped it, into the furniture.
Like a good old-fashioned cattle brand? We
Yeah,
have that
have a nice little
identifier?
bird mark on the bottom. Tags, you'll oftentimes see tags maybe underneath on the padding, and sometimes you won't. Sometimes furniture that was obviously from its age or being reupholstered may have lost the tag, so sometimes it's just kind of you have to do your research.
How did you get started with mid-century mod?
Well, just from being a collector, I guess, going around and finding bargains. And I bought a house about 9 years ago. It was built in 1956. And when I started seeing this furniture, it just seemed to fit. I wanted to, after I bought my first piece, I bought a bedroom set, a maple bedroom set. I've got birch trim, so it looked really nice. And next thing you know, I was doing the spare bedroom in the basement. So that's kind of what got me into it. And once I started seeing more and more of it, I guess it just turned into a hobby and an obsession. So,
Who's your favorite designer?
I really am a fan of Charles and Ray Eames. I just like their originality, the artistic end of what they did with their design. And I also admire the fact that they wanted to produce it for everyone to be able to purchase.
Yeah.
And I've tried to adopt that in my own shop. I like to sell furniture to everyone that wants to have it in their home.
What is love?
Dave, these chairs, they kind of need to go home with me, maybe.
Yeah.
Tell us about these chairs. I'm going to get up because
these are
gorgeous.
another Herman Miller La Fonda chairs. Really fun shape. These have been recovered. They're not the original upholstery, but they have fun colors, and you can attest that they're very comfortable.
Yes,
And they swivel.
are. And that makes them really, really fun because you can mess around on these. And speaking of the fabric, one thing about mid-century modern design is that most of the patterns and the fabric were really monochromatic, actually patternless. Isn't that true? Kind of ties into the simplistic nature of the furniture.
Sure. You don't have to be too shy with the colors.
You can get busy with the starburst clock, the owls. You have a little, what is this thing? It's like a Georgia O'Keeffe piece, kind of.
Well,
Some head.
I really love furniture, but sometimes I just buy strange things as well.
It's great.
I was in an antique shop, and it was a spray-painted cow head, so I had to buy it.
A cow head. Well, I really know my animals, don't I? All right. Well, I see you were getting ready to whip up some fondue for us. Is there anything else we should know about mid-century modern furniture?
Well, I think the thing to remember is to have fun with it. There's going to be a lot of opportunities to buy fun stuff.
Well, I'm excited. Again, I'm going to start working on my 15 additional homes so I can continue to build my collection and decorate at my own whim, right? In the meantime, we hope you learn more about mid-century modern furniture And too bad you're not here because you too could have some fun too. I'm Yvette Craddock. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to this segment of Frame. Furniture. People love it for its aesthetic value, and some people just view it as a functional tool. Regardless of viewpoints, there is one truth, and that is someone was behind the creation of a piece of furniture. In this segment of Frame, we are learning about the creative and design process involved in bringing a piece of furniture to life. Joining me is maker, craftsman, and overall creative force, Todd Zabin. Todd, welcome to Frame.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us in your studio. It's like this fairy place playland. I love it.
I've worked hard on making all this stuff, and it's been quite a creation.
Give them an idea of your background in making things.
Okay.
Please.
I was raised in a family that we always made things, and mostly agricultural farming, and my father was a craftsman, my grandfathers were craftsmen, and they passed down the traditions, and I started from an early age with making furniture, making even my own toys as a child.
Wow.
And that morphed into furniture, and luckily I've spent the last 37 years making things for a living.
And you have extraordinary pieces. It's really interesting to talk to you because I feel like we're going back to that maker period in life, and I know my brother had wooden toys growing up, and I'm seeing those types of toys come back. And then people just, getting their hands dirty, so to speak, and creating something out of nothing, if you will.
Yes.
You even repurpose a few items, such as what you have here on your workbench.
Yeah.
Will you please tell us about this?
I repurpose a lot of things. I never had a lot of money for materials, so it was always around what I found or what I could put together. Or in this case, this is actually a grate, a cold air return or a heat grate that came out of the Carnegie Library when they were remodeling it for the Museum of Art.
Here in Cedar Rapids, correct?
Here in Cedar Rapids. It was in the dumpster. I couldn't believe that nobody wanted it. So I pulled it out of the dumpster. I've done quite a bit of dumpster diving in my life to find pieces, and I will dive deep for the right piece.
Hey, this is worth diving for.
And heavy, but so is at the bottom. But so it's been around, well, since probably 1990. And finally, I redid the front of the Irish Democrat, and I ended up with some nice old growth redwood, and I thought there was just enough to go around the top of this, and so I've made this frame. I have just enough for the aprons, which there'll be a top and a bottom apron, and then I've recycled. I had all these short pieces of cedar wainscoting, tongue and groove wainscoting. That'll be the transitional piece that'll go in between the two. So it's a neat piece, recycled old growth redwood. It'll be fine outside. That's what I do, though. In this case, it was a happy coincidence that I found the grill, and I happened to find enough wood that was just perfect for this project.
What's your vision for this piece? A table?
A table, or maybe
chair,
even
bench?
A bench. Yeah, deck, screen porch. Yeah, but part of the charm of the piece is the history of the grate. So, and I do a lot. I think about the history of the wood, the history of the any part of the project. So it's a combination.
So those are influencing points for your
Absolutely.
creativity. You have a great imagination.
Thanks.
I
Thank
would
you.
see something like this and think, this is really cool, but what do I do with it?
Yeah,
That's
well,
what I
that's
really
probably why
appreciate.
it's sat around in my shop for 22 years. Why? I may be imaginative, but it takes a while maybe for the gears to turn.
Yeah, catch up with yourself, but at least the gears turn and you do make the connection. A lot of people would just look at it and they wouldn't dive in the dumpster, that's for sure.
I
Maybe
would,
you'll
yeah.
take me one day.
Oh, I know all the good dumpsters
Okay,
in town.
ready to go. Well, I didn't grow a few inches as I really wish would happen, so I'm going to step down. You have another
All right.
piece that
Here's
is a
a-
really interesting story.
Small occasional table I made quite a few years ago. It's a little beat up. It endured 3 children growing up, so it took some abuse. But I made this table out of a piece of wood that was almost identical to this. This was a beam that was taken out of a house, that was demolished by an old friend of mine in 1946 when he came back from World War II. When I started working this, I noticed how many growth rings it had, and this beam is at least 100 years old, and this house was built in 1852. So you start doing simple math,
Right.
that this tree actually probably started growing around 1740, 1750. So I gleaned enough material out of it. I resawed it enough to make the chimney on the table, and it's got a simple just half lap base, and then I resawed enough of the pieces to glue together the top, and then I turned the top. So this is a piece
Beautiful.
that the history of the wood itself is the neat part of the table. I try to combine the historic, if I can get some history with the wood, or combining that with a real piece. That's kind of
That's
where
what you do.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Do you ever sketch your designs, or do you just dive
Not
in?
very often. Now, in a case like this table, since I didn't have very much material, that kind of drove how much I could build. You know, it's not like you're going to take a piece like this and say, I'm going to make a dresser. So in this case, you know, you had to scale the project to the amount of material, but I just kind of go with the flow. And
You make it sound and look so easy.
Well,
Like,
yeah.
where do I begin with this? Where would I start?
yeah, it's, I guess, experience.
You had talked about kind of the aesthetic and fashion side of this, but you also had a really functional idea for this piece. Getting
Well,
back to my whole
Yeah.
some people view furniture as fashionable. Some people just, hey, it's just something I sleep in, sit on, or whatnot.
Right.
But this was pretty cool.
Well, I thought that this would be cool if you had a deck, or if you had a 3 seasons, 4 seasons porch. People are spending more time outside. They
Yes.
go out earlier in the spring, they stay out later in the fall. Now we've got fancy heaters to heat the out of doors. We've got nice kitchens out of doors. We've got outside fireplaces. So I thought with this piece it'd be neat to just conceal a small little door on one side, an invisible door, and then you could take a very simple ceramic heater and place it inside. It would generate enough heat, warm up the thick cast iron. You could place your warm food on it. It'd be a great place to sit when it was a little nip outside, if you know, with the watching the fire or eating, or be a great footstool if you want to keep your feet warm while you're outside.
So this is like my heated car seat for the outdoors. You contributed to a local restaurant that has some really interesting art, and this one is maybe steampunkish a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
A propeller based. Do you want to give us a story?
A few years ago, I was asked to help design and brand a new restaurant. I did a 22-foot wooden propeller for him originally when we opened the restaurant. And then while we were building the restaurant, I had all this leftover oak. I made a simple line drawing of a large propeller, started gluing up these old pieces of oak full of nails, ended up with an 18-foot blank, and then I actually carved that propeller shape out of the oak. I finished the propeller, did the copper portions of it, and actually built the whole motor unit, including the wooden chain, with one hand. I had the other hand in a cast. She did leave me what I joked I had a flipper and a pincer on that hand. So I had 2 fingers on this hand and my right hand. So I ended up finishing that, and then later hung it on the most prominent wall out at Zeppelin's.
That's outstanding.
Yeah,
Good
it was a
story.
lot of fun. And then I came back and rewired the inside with, it's all lit up with LED lights, and there's a few found gears, some agricultural gears. There's sprinkler heads. There's part of a trombone on there. It's all made out of just junk that I found.
Wow. I wish I could tap into your imagination. And all with one hand.
Oh, well, I had a pincer.
Well, I can't forget that part of
I had
it.
2 fingers on the other hand.
See, this is why I stay away from those tools,
well.
those things like that. Not a good idea.
You can have no fear, though.
That's very true.
Yeah. So
Nothing venture, nothing gain, as you just said
that's
earlier.
right.
All
That's right.
It's
Thank
been
you.
a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you for tuning into this segment of Frame. Frame is sponsored by Allegra, Click Marketing Solutions, Style Folio Jewelry, Tallgrass Business Resources,